सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ परं वरिष्ठं ब्रह्मिष्ठं परमानन्दरूपिणं परमार्थानन्दयतिं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्. So few people had this doubt. My guru is Swami Paramarthanandji, who is Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati's student. So that is the lineage, and that there is a parampara, and Swami Paramarthananda continues to teach in Chennai. So I just wanted to mention that, and this prayer is about him, composed by one of his students. Okay. So Shankaracharya is presenting the preliminaries of the text, Vivekachudamani text, in these verses before actually starting the actual teaching, which itself is going to come later in the form of a dialogue between a guru and shishya. So these preliminary portions are very, very important because they are the foundation for the teaching itself. And if the foundation is weak, then the teaching will not be effective. Therefore, it is very, very important to pay attention to these classes, the next few classes, which are the foundational classes. So Shankaracharya had said that self-knowledge alone can give liberation by removing self-ignorance and self-misconception. Jnana devatu kaivalyam. And then we also saw self-knowledge is possible only through self-inquiry. And self-inquiry is what is possible only by the study of Vedantic scriptures with the help and guidance of a guru, a spiritual guide. And even if all these things, the scriptures, guru, etc. are there, the inquiry itself will become successful only if the student has the prerequisite qualifications. So it is just as a seed can sprout only when it has right temperature, water, the retained moisture, the nutrition in the soil, all of that, right? Only then the plant can produce fruit. So similarly, so the soil also has to be prepared. So Shankaracharya has therefore introduced the qualifications required for a seeker of liberation. And 4 of them he enumerated. Vivekaha, discrimination between the eternal and the ephemeral. 2 was Vairagyam, dispassion. 3 was Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi, the 6-fold discipline. And 4, Mumukshutvam, desire for liberation. And each one of these he is explaining. We had seen the definition of the first one, right? And we also saw the second one. And then we were looking at Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, which in itself is a group of 6 inner virtues or faculties. So 6 of them put together is called discipline. So I said we can number them 3A, 3B, etc. So we have seen 3A, which is the first discipline, Shamaha, or mind management or thought discipline. So we will be seeing 3B, which is Damaha, sensory discipline now. So both Damaha and Shamaha obviously complement each other. Therefore, mind management and sense organ management are complementary. Without one, the other will not be effective. So we have to pay attention to both of them. So in this verse 13, which we are going to see today, Damaha is defined. Vishayebhyah paravartya
विषयेभ्यः परावर्त्य
स्थापनं स्वस्वगोलके
स्थापनं स्वस्वगोलके उभयेषामिन्द्रियाणां
सदमः परकीर्तितः.
सदमः परकीर्तितः.
So we are now in the third qualification, as I said, which itself is a group of 6 disciplines. And out of 6, we have seen Shamaha. Now we are going to see Damaha. And what do we mean by Damaha? Damaha is Indriya Nigrahaha. Shamaha is Mano Nigrahaha. Damaha is Indriya Nigrahaha, sensory discipline. And why should sensory discipline be practiced? For Mano Nigrahaha, Indriya Nigrahaha is a prerequisite. Why is it so? Because sense organs influence our thoughts by pushing in the entire material world into the mind. So every sense organ is a gateway to the external world, right? Otherwise, the world doesn't exist at all, because there is no materialism or matter entering into the head possible in Sushupti, right? Which is the deep sleep state. However, the moment the sense organs are opened up, all 5 of them continuously, like pump the world of 5 segments consisting of Shabda, sound, Sparsha, touch, Rupa, forms and colors, Rasa, taste, and Gandha into the mind. So the entire world is basically divided into the 5 segments. And through these 5 organs, 5 types of sense organs are constantly pushed into the mind, sense objects. The sense organs are pushing the sense objects into the mind. And the moment they enter, the mind entertains these object-related thoughts. Thus, the 5 sense objects basically act as the, the selling or the marketing agents of Maya. So, the tempting power of Bhagavan. So, for instance, assume that you want to, you can see this practically everywhere. You want to know what is the news and you're not interested in anything else. So every 5 minutes, what happens? You have a commercial break. Thank God it's not that bad in some of the paid channels now, right? But it happens, right? So Maya will then start operating. So Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva E Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. So in Gita chapter 7, the 14th verse goes like this. Basically, the divine Maya of mind, Bhagavan says, which is Trigunatmika, consists of 3 gunas, is indeed very difficult to cross over. And only those people who surrender to me cross over this Maya. Basically, is talking about meditation, etc. Right? So, since the mind develops materialistic thoughts by the sense organs, pushing the sense objects inside, we have to judicially use the sense organs. I can tell you one thing. In the pursuit of the spiritual journey, the first 2, right? Even before everything else, disciplines. This Damaha and Shamaha is what helps us in our practical day-to-day life. Before we come to this scriptural studies, we are not even aware. Nobody has ever told us in a structured way that, hey, you have to be careful, right? So there are these sense objects, there are 5 gateways, they are entering your mind. And, if you keep control on the sense organs, you can control your mind, all of these, right? So you don't think about it. You don't give any time for it. So the first time this happens, this awareness is created is through these studies. And because you're aware itself, you're able to progress a little bit. And then, of course, the practice of so many things, we're going to talk about it, helps us in strengthening this further, right? So whenever or wherever there is a field of temptation, you have to turn the sense organs away from that, right? So as Swamiji says, if you're on this spiritual journey, see if you can avoid unwanted serials, this everyday serial or everyday movie, right? So those are the things that can, weaken your sense organs, right? Because it is very addictive, irrespective of the age. So the mind is influenced by sense organs and the sense organs are influenced by the mind. So they complement each other. Therefore, mind management and sense management are complementary. And now you see what is happening. This mind management and sense organ management is very important for our pursuit of our studies also, right? You first get exposed to it, but without that, you're not going to be able to concentrate in class. But look at what the world is doing to us, right? Some people come up to me also and say, you must make it in chunks like TED Talks, not more than 20 minutes. So what is happening? We are still further trying to reduce that attention span by promoting more of this. And then next they'll say, 2-minute bites. I'm already hearing that for children, they will have to do 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Where are we heading, right? Without this kind of concentration, right? So these are all elaborately discussed by Lord Krishna in the second chapter of the Gita. Very interesting, from 58th verse or so, about 10 verses. Yada samharate chayam kurmonganiva sarvashah indriyani indriyartebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. So this is basically, he's saying the sense objects, right? When he completely, that is the Sthita Prajna description comes, and he says, he completely withdraws the sense organs from the sense objects, just as a tortoise withdraws its limbs, right? Then the knowledge becomes firm, right? And again in the third chapter, this is discussed in Karma Yoga chapter. So he's not saying suppression. Krishna is not saying suppression, but disciplining. So in disciplining, our will is involved and there's no external force, right? So I should be the master of my sense organs and my mind, and not allow my mind and sense organs to rule over me, right? That is the most significant takeaway from here. So therefore, Acharya says, Ubesham Indriyanam. Indriyanam means the sense organs. Scriptures are talking about the 10 sense organs, 5 for receiving the inputs of knowledge, and 5 for actions for giving the output. So the input sense organs we saw in Tattva Bodha in Introduction to Vedanta, they are called Jnanendriyani, and the output sense organs are called Karmendriyani. So eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin are the 5 Jnana Indriyani. Speech, hand, leg, 2 organs of excretion are the 5 sense organs of action, right? So hands, legs, speech, legs and hands are 2, and of course the organs of excretion. So all these 10 sense organs must be controlled, disciplined, and it will take months, years sometimes to discipline this, right? Speech, extremely difficult to control. So it helps people connect, share problems, right? But it also is the cause for fights, quarrels, most of the problems. So tongue discipline, both in eating as well as talking, is very important. And Bhagavad Gita gives all the details. And Acharya sums up here saying, Ubhesham Indriyanam, both the groups of sense organs of knowledge and action, Paravartya, should be withdrawn from the fields of temptation. Vishayebhyaha, the binding, tempting sense objects are the fields of temptation. So withdrawing the sense organs from the respective sense objects. So as Krishna gave the example of a tortoise, just as the tortoise withdraws all its legs and heads into its shell when there is a danger, we should withdraw our sense organs when there is a temptation, right? So having turned away the sense organs, swaswa golake sthapanam, putting them in their place, respective location, placement. Sthapanam means placement. Swaswa golake, in their respective locations. So the physical position of each sense organ is called golakam, right? So the faculty which is perceiving forms and colors is located in the golakam called the eyeball. Similarly, the faculty of perceiving sound is in the ears. So that physical part is called the golakam. The sense organs, the faculty of perception, which is belonging to the sukshma shariram, and the physical locations belong to the stula shariram. So the sense organs belonging to the subtle body should be put in place in the respective golakam in the gross physical body. In short, withdraw them, don't allow them to wander, right? Avoid extrovertedness of the sense organs. So damaha parikirtitaha means parakirtitaha. Indriya nigraha, control over the sense organs, that is damaha. So this exercise is called damaha, and this exercise is not just to be performed once a day or few times a day. It should be continuously practiced because we are continuously tempted by them, right? So this is 3A and 3B. Now we have to go to 3C, right? So 3C is, we are going to speak about uparatihi. Bahyanalambanam vrittehe.
Bahyanalambanam vrittehe.
Esho paratiruttama.
Esho paratiruttama.
Now, if you see the title, it says verse 14 and then verse 23, B, 24. It's taken as a group. But for ease of discussion, I just took the 23b part. We'll talk this and then we'll go to the next one. So this verse defines the third internal wealth, right? The third discipline, which is said to be uparatihi or uparamaha, right? The simple meaning is, what is that? Mental quietude, right? Or calmness, freedom from stress and strain. So a stress-free, relaxed, calm, poised mind. So that condition of the mind is called uparamaha. And by the practice of shama and dhamma, we learn to make the mind quiet. So a wandering mind, a mind which is entertaining unwanted thoughts involuntarily, we learn to control and make the mind calm. So making the mind calm will come under shamaha, whereas uparatihi is after making the mind calm, maintaining that quiet state. So the continuity of that calm condition is uparatihi. So if we don't have uparati, what will happen? The mind will become quiet through shama, but immediately the mind will run towards the external objects, either by visualizing them internally or seeing them externally. People who are trying to practice meditation can actually experience this, right? It takes a lot of conscious effort to pull back, right? So it's like a mother who is pulling this toddler who's running away, right? And if you have to continue talking, you have to bring a lot of toys and make sure that the child is not distracted and has enough toys to play around. Otherwise, you can't even speak to the mother because the baby keeps running. So the mind is like the baby. So repeatedly, it will try to go outwards, not allowing it to go out, but keeping it constantly in calm condition is called uparatihi. Right? So Acharya says, Esha Uttama Uparatihi. Right? So the best form of definition of Uparatihi is given here, which is Vrittehe Bahya Analambanam. Right? Vritti means thoughts. Alambanam means holding or taking to. Bahya means external object. So here it is Analambanam. So the condition of the mind where the thoughts are not running after or taking up external objects, once again, right, after you have calmed down, is known as uparatihi. So the mind not becoming extrovert once again, that is what is talked about here. So the extrovert mind is pulled in by shama, and by uparama, I make sure that the mind doesn't become extrovert once again, right? So that is why before the class, we chant dhyana shlokas or some shlokas where I can withdraw from my family, professional conditions, diseases, professional issues, or professional, family, wealth, body, mind, anything, right? Investments, all of them, you can withdraw. And the mind should focus on the class. So if you bring the mind to class, it is shamaha. Thereafter, the mind, if it remains in the class for 60 solid minutes, that condition is called uparamaha. Otherwise, after a few minutes, it will run out. Therefore, vrittihi bahya means, right? Vrittehe bahya means thoughts of external objects. Alambanam means running after. Analambanam means not running after external objects. So that is uparamaha. Enjoying a relatively calm, composed mind is very important for any activity. And only a composed mind is 100% available, right? A preoccupied mind is a shallow mind. This is common for whether it is Vedanta or whether you are concentrating on some work in office also or at home, right? Therefore, uparamaha is very important, and the continued quietude of the mind, right? So, bahyanalambanam vrittehe esho parati ruttama. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam
Sahanam sarva dukkhanam
apratikara-purvakam
apratikara-purvakam
Chinta-vilaparahitam
Chinta-vilaparahitam
Sati-tiksha-nigadyate.
Sati-tiksha-nigadyate.
So the fourth internal discipline is called titiksha, another very, very important qualification. So Lord Krishna highlights titiksha in Bhagavad Gita several times. In the second chapter, he says, Agamo payino nityas tam titikshasva bharata. Right? in the second chapter, in the 14th verse, and again in the 13th chapter, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shantirarjavam, right? And then he also talks about it in the 16th chapter, tejaha kshama dhritish shaucham adroho natimanita. So the words are basically synonyms. Which of them? Titiksha in the second chapter, kshantihi in the 13th chapter, and shama in the 16th chapter. All of them mean the same. Titiksha means endurance, tolerance, forbearance, right? Considered to be extremely important for all, especially for the spiritual seeker. And by endurance, we mean the capacity to go through difficulties in life, painful situations in life, whether it is physical pain or emotional pain, the capacity to endure them. So this endurance or tolerance is a very, very important inner faculty, because a life of every human being will have both kinds of experiences, pleasurable as well as painful, right? So according to Shastra, we have taken birth and we have taken this body because of our Purva Janma karma. So Bhagavan has given me this life, not because Bhagavan wants me to have this, right? It is through our own karmas in the previous janmas that we have got this, right? So it is a mixture of punya karma and papa karma. So punyam will also fructify, papam will also fructify, right? The fructifying karma is called prarabdha karma. It is ready for fructification anytime, one after the other during this lifetime. So when punya karma fructifies, we go through wonderful, pleasurable conditions. Often, even we don't even work for it, right? But it happens very beautifully. Sometimes we don't know what is happening and something hits us, right? So we have to go through all of them to exhaust our karma. And as human beings, we do have the faculty of free will. So by using the free will, we can certainly try to remove or at least reduce some of our papams, right? So we do have the power and the resource to remedy the difficult situations. Some problems are preventable, but some difficulties are not preventable but remediable. So some are preventable, some are unpreventable but remediable, like certain diseases, right? So, but there are certain karmas called prabala prarabdham, which are neither preventable nor remediable. We have to endure. They are choiceless situations. So every living being, without exception, will have to go through them. My choiceless problem will be different from your choiceless problem, but we all have our own unique choiceless difficulties. In fact, this really helps. Sometimes when we are going through a very difficult phase, either in our career or on the family front, and we look at somebody else and we only see the external aspects, we think, oh, he or she is so lucky. Now, I always say this prarabdha is going to be there over a lifetime. Only after the lifetime of a person, you know the plus minus, and then you can say, oh, that person had it, all plus and very less negative. Until the last moment, you don't know what hits. So there is no point in looking at somebody else and feeling, oh, he doesn't seem to have any problem, but I only seem to have this problem. So this is a very big leveler, this awareness, right, of what the scriptures tell us. Free will you can use to influence it, but sometimes it is not possible to completely counter these, right? So Lord Krishna calls them apariharyete, right? So tasmad pariharyete natvam shochitum arhasi in chapter 2, right? So when we have to go through such choiceless difficulties, what are we supposed to do? Here alone, our free will and intelligence are useful. And our scripture says, use that free will and your effort to build up your titiksha, endurance power, right? Not after the choiceless phase comes. It's a waste. When somebody is in trouble, you cannot try to sell Vedanta to them or even talk about it. It won't work, right? So when you have positive situation in the household, right? Then you try and develop this titiksha so that at some stage in the life when you have to go through choiceless pain, it helps. Otherwise, fine. If you're only going to have pleasure right through, even then it is an advantage only. So this inner wealth of endurance is extremely important. So even when the pain comes because of prarabdha, when we have endurance or titiksha, the impact of the pain will be greatly reduced. So we won't feel the pain that much, right? So greater the endurance, lesser the impact. Therefore, in a particular, if you observe in a typical family situation, if there is a problem that is befalling the entire family, we find not everybody reacting in the same manner. Some of them flare up, some of them react violently, but some of them don't, right? So they're all facing the same problem only, but the responses are different because of the differences in the inner strength. Therefore, inner strength is very useful in facing choiceless pains. So, titiksha is compulsory for everyone, especially for spiritual seekers. And when we face old age, disease, and death, and when if titiksha is less, then the impact of pain is very, very high. And when the impact is high, the indication is it generates varieties of toxic emotions, thoughts, worries, anxieties. Lesser the endurance, the emotional disturbances will be more, right? And some of them continuously imagine problems. Will I get this problem? If there is endurance, I will have the capacity to face them. I will face it. So I'm relaxed. I don't dwell on it. I'm in fear of the future, right? So that endurance is the remedy basically for this fear. And another problem is when the tolerance is low, the anger is also very high, right? So the flaring up happens very much. So fear, anger, depression, frustration, right? So building titiksha becomes very, very important. So the scriptures point out, start developing titiksha early in life. So that's the first lesson, to develop tolerance. So how do we build up that tolerance? Scriptures point out that there is only one method, which is you develop the power of enduring the pain only by enduring the pain, right? Like you can learn swimming only by swimming, right? You can learn cycling only by cycling. So similarly, you face these voluntarily and don't try to escape from them, right? But choose to undergo some minor types of pains as a means of obtaining or developing titiksha, right? So for Swamiji gives this example. Suddenly at 11 o'clock in the night, the AC trips in middle of summer. Try and see if you can sleep through the night without complaining first, right? Because otherwise the tendency is to complain and curse the electricity board and all of that, right? See if we can do that. That is one way of developing titiksha, right? Then on the day of the grahanam, they say, okay, don't eat food for so many hours. Try that. Observe Ekadashi Upavasa. Go through hunger pangs and see whether you can go through with it, right? Titiksha is when we develop this by voluntarily going through painful situations, either by voluntarily inviting difficult situations or going through difficult situations that arise without complaining. So when we voluntarily go through pain, it is called tapas in Shastra. So practicing tapas, willfully going through difficulties, is the best method of building up titiksha. So some people are on Mauna Vrat the whole day. Some people say one day in a week, I won't touch the mobile. New form of tapas, right? Very difficult, but that is all going to build up this titiksha. So here Acharya gives certain conditions under which the tapas will work. Apratikara purvakam. The first condition he says is, once you have taken a vow, a decision to go through a particular difficult situation, like you have decided to observe Upavasa on Ekadashi day, go through and complete the entire vow without breaking the vow, and do not, resort to taking any remedy in between. So there will be hunger pangs in between. It is better to avoid eating something. So the first condition is, once you decide to go through with it, don't look for a remedy in between. Or you take a conscious decision that I will survive with one banana and a glass of milk whole day. Then gradually I will come down, or whatever it is, right? So he calls it apratikara purvakam. Pratikara means remedy. So don't take to any remedy, right? So don't take to any remedy in between, go through it entirely. Chinta rahitam. The second condition is chinta rahitam. So once you have decided to go through a particular difficult situation, do not keep on mentally dwelling about the difficulty or pain all the time. I'm hungry, today's Ekadashi, I'm not eating. Don't keep thinking about it. Don't dwell on the discomfort. I have chosen it. I've decided to go through it. I'm not going to dwell on it. Like you undertake a Tirtha Yatra, going to Tirupati by walking or Kedarnath walking. Don't complain. Enjoy the journey once you have decided to undertake it. So the second condition for tapas is don't dwell on the pain mentally. Then vilapa rahitam. So the third one, don't talk about the pain to others, right? Don't lament, telling them sob story, right? I have this problem, that problem, etc. Right? Don't lament. So this will help you really find your inner strength, right? Our test was during Corona, the lockdown, right? Some of us have emerged much stronger because of that, right? So that self-confidence and self-reliance, because maids didn't turn up in Indian conditions with so much of dust, washing clothes, washing the vessels, doing everything right from home. It taught us a lot of things. And there are a lot of people who responded differently to this, right? Some complained bitterly, some took it as a time to do Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, or learn a new thing like Sanskrit or something else positively, right? Or maybe you did something at work newly, right? So in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it is said, Etadvai paramam tapo yad vyahitastapyate, meaning even our sickness can be used as an opportunity for practicing tapas, enduring whatever difficulties the body goes through, right? So in fact, in our tradition, it may look like a joke, but in our tradition, Grihastha itself is a tapas. It was meant to face all kinds of situations to develop physical endurance and emotional endurance, and a lot of emotional endurance, right? So a person can get that only if he or she is willing to accept all the ups and downs, all the difference of opinion, disparities, etc. So all of them are taken as tapas. So Grihastha Ashrama will have all these things because many people are different, right? So I've entered Grihastha Ashrama for practicing Yajna, Dana and Tapaha. I go through various types of difficulties, physical difficulties, financial difficulties, emotional difficulties, maybe difficult spouse, difficult children, difficult in-laws. So I'm willing to go through all of that without looking for a remedy, without necessarily taking to sannyasa. Arjuna wanted to escape his Kshatriya duty by taking sannyasa. So one should therefore resolve, I don't want to escape from Grihastha Ashrama, but I will use it to develop Titiksha. So Titiksha is an important value. And if we take to sannyasa ashrama also, we should not think that Titiksha will come automatically. Now in sannyasa ashramam, as a sannyasi, you have to accept any type of food, any type of place. You might have to go through any kind of health condition. He may not have any resource for the remedy. So that also requires Titiksha, right? And he doesn't have anybody to help also. So all ashramas require Titiksha. So Bahya Analambanam Vrittehe Esha Uparatihi Uttama. So we saw in the previous part in 23b1, we saw the Uparati part. Now the Sarva Dukkhanam Sahanam. In all types of choiceless pains, if there is a remedy in certain cases, you will take remedial measures. Even Prayachita Karma, if you want to do, Shastra says do. But it may not work always, right? So, sarva dukkhanam means sarva apariharya dukkhanam sahanam. Enduring whatever, right? Without working for remedy, enduring because there is no remedy also sometimes, right? And chinta vilapa rahitam, constantly not dwelling on that pain, right? And constantly complaining about that. So, whatever resources we have, we can try and use it, but still, right? Beyond that, without complaining and without talking about it to others, chinta vilapa rahitam, going through and enduring sa titiksha nigadyate. This process or this faculty which one develops is called titiksha. The greatest advantage is I can reduce fear and anger, and I'm out of fear because I know that there will be unfavorable situations and anger is not going to help. Right? On the other hand, anger can only cause more problems. So, sa titiksha nigadyate. This endurance of difficulty is called titiksha. So far we have seen 4 of the 6 internal wells. 3A was shama, 3B was dama, 3C is uparama, and 3D is titiksha. So, bahyanalambanam vrittehe esho bharatiruttama sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam Sadhitikshani gadyate. Now we have to go to 3E. Shastrasya guruvakyasya
शास्त्रस्य गुरुवाक्यस्य
satya buddhyavadharana
सत्यबुद्ध्यावधारणा
sa shraddha katita sadbhihi
सा श्रद्धा कथिता सद्भिः
yaya vastupalabhyate.
यया वस्तुपलभ्यते.
So there are two readings here. I will come to it. So that is that Satya Buddhyavadharana and Satya Buddhyavadharana. Both are okay. I'll come to it. So the fifth internal wealth is named as Shraddha. Of course, in our culture, it is a very popular word. In Vedanta, it is a very significant word and considered to be an extremely important and a very, very important virtue of the mind. So to understand this, we should have some background knowledge. And because it is so important, I decided that I will spend some time explaining this, right? So we saw that self-knowledge alone can give liberation. So self-knowledge is not one of the methods of liberation. It is the only means of liberation, is the declaration of all the scriptures. So tam eva viditva mrityum atyeti ayanaya anyah pantana vidyate, right? So in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it is said there is no alternate method possible. Shankaracharya also said that jnana devatu kaitvalyam. So since knowledge is important for a seeker of liberation, the source of knowledge becomes equally important. So if water is important, we have to find the sources of water, right? Whether it is a well, a bore well, or a tank, or a lake, right? The source becomes very, very important. So in tradition, any method or instrument by which we gain any form of knowledge, including self-knowledge, is called a pramanam, right? Very important part I'm entering. Pramanam, derived from the root pra plus ma dhatu, right? Second and third conjugation. Pra is the prefix, prama, to know, pramati, and pramanam means an instrument or a means of knowledge. So pramati anena iti pramanam, right? So sometimes the pra is also omitted, but here we are going to stick to pramanam, the source of knowledge. So what are the different sources of knowledge? This topic is analyzed in the scriptures very elaborately, right? So we are now going to see that. So they talk about 6 different sources. Shad pramanani, pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, arthapatti, anupalabdhi, and shabdaha. So different sources of knowledge they talk about, right? And we are not getting into the details here. Among the means of knowledge, one is shabdaha. It means spoken and written words, a method of communication through which we can give and receive knowledge. So when we read the newspaper, we get knowledge about many things. That is, written words give us knowledge. If we listen to the news on TV or radio, the spoken words that give us knowledge. So the spoken and written words are capable of giving knowledge, and it is called Shabda Pramanam. So all the books that we read are thus sources of knowledge. So this classification of Pramanam is based on different sources, right? That's one type of division. Now, just to let you know, perception is basically pratyaksham through the 5 sense organs. Inference is inference, as you understand. This comparison, postulate, and non-cognition are all extensions of only perception and inference. We are not going to get into the detail of it. Postulate, I'm sure you understand, but the famous example used in the Shastra is, suppose I get up early in the morning and after a sound sleep and I see a lot of water flooded all over, right? Once I see plenty of water all over the street, what do? Last night, it must have heavily rained, right? Night rain is a postulate. So I have to indirectly, because I have not experienced the downpour, so I need to indirectly do this, right? So this is a postulate or arthapati. And then upamana is, comparison. And then non-cognition or is basically absence of a, say, a tail on a human being. So that is basically non-cognition. So for all practical purposes, we can reduce these five, the first five, into two: perception and inference. And of course, the last one is the Shabda Pramana, right? Now, this is based on the sources, right? So that is point number one. Just remember this. Now, the next one, very important, very significant. The second point is the scriptures divides the pramanam into two broad varieties: primary and secondary. So what do you mean by that, right? Now, by reading a newspaper or a book, I get knowledge about so many things. For example, I know that there are, there is Himalayas. Then I know that there is Ganges River, which is coming from the Gangotri. There are glaciers. Something is written about Gangotri, Yamunotri, all of them, right? So it is a source of knowledge which can be validated or verified by another method, right? Or by direct perception using the sense organs. So when I go to Gangotri and see it, I validated myself with my eyes, right? So any knowledge of this kind can be validated by another method, which is most likely the direct perception. So this kind or type of source of knowledge or pramanam is called secondary pramanam, right? Upajivi pramanam, a technical name in the Shastra. And to verify that knowledge, we use the sense organs as a source or instrument of knowledge. Thus, every sense organ is a pramanam. Eyes are pramanam to know forms and colors. Ears are pramanam to know sounds. Nose is pramanam to know smells. Tongue is pramanam to know taste. Skin is pramanam to know touch, heat, cold, etc. Now, the sense organs are called pratyaksha pramanam. Now, what type of pramanam is each sense organ? If you analyze, you will find once a sense organ gives a knowledge, say the eye reports the color of an object, I treat that knowledge as final. I don't doubt the knowledge. I don't try to verify that knowledge. Like knowledge of color by any other method cannot override the knowledge of color given by the eyes directly. So color cannot be verified by smelling or tasting, right? You can't do any chemical analysis also. So the color knowledge given by the eye and eye alone is primary. And so in the field of colors, no other pramanam other than the eye has got an access to check, verify, prove, or disprove. And if eyes are not there, right, I cannot get that knowledge. If eyes are there, I get that knowledge. A knowledge which cannot be verified by any other pramanam. Therefore, eyes come under primary pramanam or upajivya pramanam, right? That on which one depends or rests. That's the meaning, upajivya pramanam, right? So, whereas any book about a temple or trees or Gangotri will come only under a secondary pramanam. Thus, we have got primary pramanam and secondary pramanams. The uniqueness, right, of the primary pramanam is it will give a knowledge which cannot be gained through or challenged by any other pramanam. Very important point. If that primary pramanam is not there, you can't get clear, unambiguous knowledge about that subject. Thus, primary and secondary is another kind of classification of pramanams based on the different sources. We saw the first classification. The second one is based on this primary and secondary. Now, having understood primary and secondary pramanam, when we study Vedanta as part of Veda, right, it is called Shabda Pramanam. The question comes as to how should I approach Vedanta Shabda Pramanam? Should I treat it as secondary pramanam like the other books on Gangotri, etc.? Or should I treat it as a primary pramanam like the sense organs? It is extremely crucial to have this clear understanding about this aspect to entertain the appropriate attitude towards it. Now, Veda itself answers this question. Veda says, I am going to give you knowledge which is not available for any other instrument of knowledge. Na tatta chakshur gacchati na vag gacchati no mano na vidmo na vijanimo yataidanu shishyat. Right? And this is in Kena Upanishad. In Kathopanishad, Yamadharma Raja says, Naisha tarkena matirapaneya proktanenaiva sujnanaya preshta. Right? So, not possible through logic, arguments, through any other pramanam. So, Veda says, I am the primary source of knowledge, unlike other books of the world. I am like the sense organs. The scriptures use the word Shastra Chakshuhu. Shastram is like the eye. So the field of Shastra is an area which is not available for or accessible to any other instrument of knowledge, including the sense organs or enhanced sense organs like microscope, telescope, etc. All scientific methods of knowledge, right? We get so many types of knowledge. Veda deals with something not available through any one of them. It is called alaukika vishayaha or apaurusheya vishayaha. Therefore, Veda is a primary source of knowledge. And if Veda pramanam is not there, we cannot get knowledge about these alaukika vishaya. Just as if eyes are not there, you can never know the colors, right, with the help of any other instrument. So we have to miss the entire world of colors if we lose our eyes, right? So if I blindfold myself, I lose that complete experience. So if I use the Veda, I can enrich myself by knowing something which is not accessible to other pramanams. Because of the same reason, whatever Vedic knowledge I receive, I should take it as factual and final knowledge. Like in the case of color, where I consider seeing is believing. Thus, once I choose the right pramanam for gaining knowledge, I have to do whatever inquiry is required to extract the knowledge out of it. And once I have so extracted it and assimilated it, that knowledge is final and cannot be challenged by any other pramanam. Suppose I gain the knowledge of color using my eyes. That knowledge is final. I cannot use my nose to validate that, right? So, very similar to that. So, if I have got a doubt in Vedic teaching, if I have no conviction about it, I should only restudy with the guidance of a guru. I can use different textbooks, right? The same Vedic teaching. Then definitely I will get that unique knowledge. Veda promises, you approach me as a primary pramanam, I will enrich you. And this attitude towards Veda, the awareness born out of the understanding that Veda is a primary pramanam. This awareness born attitude is called Shraddha. Right? So, Upajivya pramanam, Swata pramanya jnanam or bhavana. That bhavana is Shraddha. And Veda says you will get all the results. You can enrich your life. You can fulfill your life. You can get moksha also. I will help you. But there is one important condition, that is, you can study me, the Veda, again and again, but you should approach me with Shraddha. So Veda is a primary source, must be clear, unambiguous conviction. Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatpara sayyatendriyaha jnanam labdva param shantim achirenadi gacchati in chapter 4 of Gita, right? And also talks about ashaddadhana purushaha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani, right? In 9th chapter of the Gita. So, O Arjuna, those people who have no faith in this teaching continue certainly in the course of samsara, right? Going through life and death again and again without attaining me. So, and then Uddalaka says in Chandogya also, Mahanyagrodhas tishtati shraddhasva somyeti. He's saying the finest part in that seed is not visible to you, but in that finest part lies the hidden huge banyan tree. Have faith in what I say, right? Uddalaka tells. So Shraddha is thus very important. And if you don't have that attitude and we don't have that attitude, Veda will not benefit us. Maybe we will get other benefits, right? Like we'll be a scholar in Veda. We could attend seminars, we can earn money. That is all there. But the promise of moksha is possible only when there is Shraddha in the teaching of Vedanta. And if we have any difficulty about this attitude, developing this attitude, you study Vedanta again and again and again. Gradually, it will build up, right? So, and Veda doesn't promise even this benefit after death. It says it is available here and now, right? So, very important concept of the Shraddha. Very important this is. And I want to mention that this is one of the reasons why I have also learned it over the years with experience. There is no point in picking up debates or fight with people who want to validate everything with science. They will never understand that this cannot be validated by science. Logic you can use. Veda doesn't say, leave your intellect. Very nicely it says, use logic and see whether it all makes sense, whether it all comes together. Do all that. But don't try to validate it with science, right? Don't ask, can I see the Sukshma Shariram traveling after death? No, it's not possible, right? So that is Shraddha. So Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satya Buddhi Avadarana or Satya Buddhya Avadarana, right? Both readings are okay, right? So we will take Satya Buddhya Avadarana. The word Avadarana has several meanings. So in this context, we take it as listening to, right? Avadharayati, to ascertain is one meaning. To hear, listen carefully is another meaning. Shravanam, basically. Listening to the scriptural teaching. Guru Vakyasya Avadharana, listening to the words of the Guru. Always, Shastram and Guru both will go together, right? So we require Shraddha towards Shastra Vakyam and Guru Vakyam. And this attitude here is called Satya Buddhya. Satyam here means Upajivya Pramanam, a primary Pramanam. So Shastram is an independent and reliable source of knowledge. It is an authentic source of knowledge, like the sense organs, right? Exactly like that. So sometimes, like, you have these illusions created, right? Optical illusions. You will also have here some Vedantic teachings contradicting one another or seemingly contradicting one another. Really, it doesn't contradict. So there are Mimamsa Shastras. There is a guru who can help you unlock this and understand this. Therefore, Shastram or Vedanta is very much valid, like the eyes. So this validity is called Satyam. Buddhihi means awareness. So pramanam iti buddhihi satya buddhihi. Right? That attitude, right, is Shraddha, and we can never translate that Shraddha. It is very, very difficult to translate. At best, we can say the attitude born of the awareness of the fact that Vedanta is an independently valid source of knowledge. That attitude. This awareness or attitude, avadharana, shravanam, has to be done with this attitude. Sa Shraddha Katita Sadbihi. So this attitude is called Shraddha by the noble teachers of Vedanta, right? So Yaya Vastu Upalabhyate. But this alone, Vastu Upalabhyate, the absolute reality can be known, right? It can be attained. Therefore, Shraddha is very, very important. Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satya Buddhyavadharana Sa Shraddha Katita Sadbihi Yaya Vastu Upalabhyate. Sarvada Sthapanam Buddhehe
Sarvada Sthapanam Buddhehe
Shuddhe Brahmani Sarvata
Shuddhe Brahmani Sarvatha
Tatsamadhanamityuktam
Tatsamadhanamityuktam
Natu Chittasya Lalanam.
Natu Chittasya Lalanam.
So this verse deals with the sixth subdivision of the third qualification. That's why it's written as 3F. I tried to correct all the headings because last time somebody pointed out there were some typos. So this we have seen in Tattva Bodha. Samadhanam is basically Chitta Ekagrata, mental concentration or focusing faculty. Sarvada Sthapanam, right? Or there's another reading, Samyak Sthapanam also. So Samadhanam is derived from the root datte, right? Dadati. Sam and are prefixes. So Samyak Sthapanam means clearly and without wandering, fixing the mind on an object for a length of time, concentrating on a field for a length of time. So generally our mind is of wandering nature, especially when the Rajoguna is very predominant. So this is the focusing faculty. If you see Uparamaha, Shamaha, Uparamaha, Titiksha, Samadhanam, all these are, steps towards mental quietude and readiness to accept the knowledge, right? So it's all part of Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. You develop this focusing faculty, right? So as part of Karma Yoga, Samadhi Yoga, which we call Upasana Yoga, practice of daily meditation to develop this focusing faculty. And for meditation, we make use of God as an object of meditation. And all the three versions of God, as I spoke in the last class, Ekarupa Ishvara, right? We try to dwell upon Ekarupa Ishvara, whichever is our Ishta Devata. Vishwarupa Ishvara, we can develop later, right? And dwell on Vishwarupa Ishvara. Bhuvpado Yasyanabir, I spoke about it last class again. And then when we come to Vedanta, we meditate on Bhagavan as the absolute reality without any attributes. Nirgunam Brahma, right? So from Ekarupa to Vishwarupa or Shuddha Brahma. So the process is called Chitta Samadhanam. So another word used for this is in yoga is Samadhi, right? So it is focusing, and that alone is called here as Samadhanam. We will go through the meaning of the verse itself in the next class. But before I, complete, I just wanted to mention there was a question on Saint Tyagaraja in the last class saying, how can you refer to that as Manda Bhakti? Exactly like Acharya has written so many different verses on different deities and on Vishwarupa Ishvara and on Nirguna Brahma. Saint Tyagaraja also has done this. If you see Paramatmudu, one particular Kirtana, he says, I worship Brahman in the form of Vishnu and Shiva, right? And also there is Tattvamariya Tarama, which is, talking about Tat, Tvam, Asi, etc. Now, Tyagaraja has done a lot of compositions on Rama out of compassion for the world at large, and Rama was his Ishta Devata, right? Now, this Manda Bhakti, Madhyama Bhakti and Uttama Bhakti is from the angle of a spiritual seeker who needs to gradually transcend that particular attachment to a deity and cross over and move on. So I wanted to make sure that the context is understood, because, in case this is misquoted, then it becomes absolutely incorrect and it's not right at all. Ishtarupa Devata Bhakti is perfectly fine for 99% of the people, right? So I just wanted to make that comment and add that context, and then I will just chant the Shanti mantra and then we can take questions. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.